Okay, so I'm going to highlight parallel lines. We have two different sets, so I'm going to use two colors to highlight my different parallel lines. All right, okie dokie. So we have expressions this time instead of just like solve for this angle 1. So we're going to be writing some equations for sure. So let's see. I'm going to pick this one to do first. So do you guys see another angle in that picture that has a relationship with a 2x minus y angle? 40. What relationship do these guys have? They are corresponding. Excellent. So corresponding angles are congruent, so we set them equal to each other. So 40 equals 2x minus y.
Are they not same side interior?
Good question. Okay, so this 2x minus y is exterior because it's below that red line. Okay, so we can't solve this equation because there are two variables. But don't panic. We'll write another equation and then we can solve a system. Aha. Okay, so now we're going to look at this angle, the x plus 2y angle. What is another angle that has a relationship with that one?
40.
Also 40. What relationship do they have? They're supplementary because they're same side interior. And they're using the blue parallel lines. So they're using different parallel lines. All right, so since they're supplementary, that means x plus 2y plus 40 equals 180. So I have two equations that both have two variables, which means I'm going to solve a system. So I prefer to solve by elimination, so I'm going to first just rewrite that second equation so that all my variables are on the left and all my numbers are on the right. So I'm going to rewrite it as x plus 2y equals 140. So I subtracted 40 from both sides. And then I'm going to put that first equation underneath it so I can kind of line it all up. So I'm going to do 2x minus y equals 40. Okay, let's see. So far if I add them together, they won't cancel out. I noticed that one of my y's is positive, one's negative. So I'm thinking if I can take the second equation and multiply it through by 2, that will give me one positive 2y and one negative 2y, which would cancel. So I'm going to rewrite my equation multiplied through by 2. So I get 4x minus 2y equals 80. So adding through my equations, I get x plus 4x is 5x. The positive 2y and the negative 2y add to 0, so they cancel. And 140 plus 80 is 220. So that means that x would be 44. All right, so once you have one variable, how do you find the other one? Plug it in, plug it in. Okay, so I'm going to plug it in to one of my original equations. So I'm going to say 40 equals 2 times 44 minus y. And then we'll just solve for y, so 40 equals 88 minus y. So if I subtract 88 from both sides, I get negative 48 equals negative y. And I'll divide both sides by negative 1 to get that y equals 48. Okay, can I get a quick check-in on a scale of 1 to 5, how you guys are feeling so far about stuff? Totally don't expect you to be competent yet. We're still brand new on solving. Okay, awesome, thanks. Okay, all right, let's do another one. Well, first, any questions on this one? Okay, let's do number 7. So, start by highlighting your parallel lines. All right, and with your group for a second, try and figure out if those two angles have any relationship that we can use.
Yeah. So you have opposite side.
Did you guys find anything? Do they have a relationship?
No.
No, they don't have a relationship yet. Okay, so the question is then, what do we do when those two angles we already have expressions for don't have a relationship yet? And what we do is we move an angle. So I'm going to take this x squared, and I'm going to say, okay, where is another spot in that picture that I know is congruent to x squared? Yeah. Question.
The angle that is supplementary to 15x plus 8.
So this one?
No, the other one. The one on the opposite side.
So you thought, let's see, this one?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. And either spot could have worked, actually. But yes, so x squared and this x squared are corresponding. So that means that they're congruent. So I wrote my x squared down at the bottom because that angle is congruent to the original x squared. And so now you ask yourself the question again. Now what angle relationship do those two angles have? They're supplementary because they're a linear pair, right? So these guys are linear pairs. Or a linear pair, I should say. Which means they add to 180. So x squared plus 15x plus 80 equals 180. All right, we have an x squared and an x. What do you think we're going to have to do to solve? Perhaps factoring? Yes. So before you factor, we want to get everything on one side of the equation. So I'm going to start by subtracting 180 from both sides to move everything to the left so that I get x squared plus 15x minus 100 equals 0.
Oh, you accidentally wrote minus 180.
Yes, I meant to, because I'm moving this 180 to the left, so I'm subtracting 180 from both sides.
Oh, okay. Alright.
Yeah, we're just getting everything in our equation on one side of the equation so that we have an equal 0 on the other side. So now that we have an equal 0, now we're ready to factor. So I'm going to do the box method. Whoops, my page went crazy. I'll do the box method with you guys. So draw your box first. Step 1. Sure. So your x squared goes in the top left box. Your c term, which is the negative 100, goes in the bottom right box. To fill in the other two boxes, remember that the rule is we say what multiplies to this invisible 1 times this negative 100. So what multiplies to negative 100 and then adds to the middle. So multiplies to negative 100, adds to 15. 20 and 5? Okay.
Negative 5, yeah.
Yeah, negative 5 and positive 20. So I'm going to do 20x in one box and negative 5x in the other. It doesn't matter which one I put in which box. You'll get the same solution either way. All right. Okay, so now you ask yourself, what does that first row have in common?
X.
an x. So if I take an x out of x squared, I'm left with an x, because x times x is x squared, and then x times 20 is 20x. And then we do the same thing for the bottom row. What do those two guys have in common?
5.
Should it be positive or negative 5? Negative 5. Because negative 5 times x is negative 5x, and negative 5 times 20 is negative 100. So your two factors are x plus 20 and x minus 5. So now we're going to set them both equal to 0. So x plus 20 equals 0, x minus 5 equals 0, which means that x equals negative 20 and 5. But we have two solutions. So whenever you have two solutions, we got to make sure that they make sense. Okay, so if we take x equals negative 20 and plug in negative 20 into x squared, what's negative 20 squared?
400.
Positive 400. Can that angle be 400 degrees?
No.
No, that doesn't make sense. Therefore, negative 20 is not a good solution. Also, if you had plugged it in down here, 15 times negative 20 plus 80, you would have gotten a negative angle. Can angles be negative?
No.
Also no. So negative 20 is not a good solution, but if you plug in 5 in both places, you'll get positive angles that are less than 180. So x equals 5 is your only solution. So we're going to write just a little note at the top to say, remember, angles must be positive. So angles must be positive and less than 180 degrees in these situations that we're working on today. Okay, I'm going to draw you guys one more example because I just want to point something out to you. You don't have to draw it. You can just look up here. So pretend that we have two more parallel lines in a transversal, and we got like an x squared up here. And let's say we had a whole equation because we had some other expressions, and we got two solutions that x could be negative 3 or like positive 4 or something like that. We're totally making it up. Would both of those solutions be good solutions for that angle?
Yes.
Yes, right? Because negative 3 squared is positive 9, 4 squared is positive 16. So the reason why I say that is because your variable, the x, it can be negative. That's totally fine. You just don't want the angle to be negative. Okay, so your x can be negative. It's the angle that can't be negative. Okay, questions about that? Okay. All right, so that's where we stopped together, but there is one thing missing on your paper. On number 8, you're supposed to have another expression right here that says x squared. So go ahead and just add that in on number 8.